staying on or for jumping on at this point. At this session, it's going to last about an hour. It's our grant information session. What we're going to cover is who we are, what we do, also an overview of the grants that will be offered starting this year. We work on a fiscal year, the July to June fiscal year, and some of those are starting September 1st. So we're hoping that this might give y'all some clarity as you're putting together some of your programs. We're probably going to go through this fairly quickly. We have a lot to get through. So if we are moving a little fast, I do apologize about that. You can ask questions in the chat. And you can also visit our website. We have all of this on our website. It's www.yourfoundation.org. We encourage you to explore that site. We've got a whole bunch of different pages on there with details about each grant on it. So welcome.
All right, so let me give you just a very brief overview of what a community foundation is, and that's kind of on the next slide. I think most of you already know this, but just so we're all on the same page, a community foundation is a 501c3, just like you are. We are a public charity with a board of directors, just like you, and we're as accountable to folks as you are. We do have a flexible yet permanent collection of funds that are supported by a wide range of donors, right? So we have over 400 funds that are currently at the community foundation, and some of them are for very specific things, and others are pretty broad. Community foundations in general are really for a geographic region. We are seeing some now that are more issue focused, but typically and historically they've been for a specific geographic region. Ours is 11 counties in the Midlands of South Carolina. We do try to provide philanthropic leadership on critical community issues. We want to be at the table. We want to be a voice for philanthropy, for nonprofits at the table. And we also, one of our big goals is to help match donors with their philanthropic goals and nonprofits in the community that can help them attain those goals. And so that's really what we sort of try to be, that intermediary, if you will, to help match donors with needs. So the question is, because we kind of want to know who's in the virtual room with us, is what is your organization's primary focus area? So really just we want to know sort of who's here as we're thinking about our grants, who that might be. And you might need to scroll a little bit, but what's just your one primary focus area, whether it's animals, arts and culture, community improvement, education, the environment, faith, health and wellness, human services, military and veterans, youth development. Sorry if you're none of those things, but they only gave me 9 options. And so just kind of want to know who all's in the virtual room with us. We've had about, oh yeah, good. Folks are answering the question. We'll give you just 1 or 2 more seconds. All right, great. So it looks like the majority of you, if you want to share that poll, are in human services, sort of followed by community improvement, a little bit of arts and culture and education and youth development, and a couple of smattering here and there. Okay, great. That helps us a lot, so we sort of know who is in there and who's in this room with us. Thank you. So, Haley, you want to kind of do a little bit of at a glance for us?
Sure. This is just kind of covers what we've been doing lately. We have awarded over 220 million since 1984, whenever we first started. We've basically awarded more in grants and scholarships than how much our assets are, which is kind of cool. We don't have a particular focus area of just, a certain disease or a certain, environmental cause or anything like that. We really do grants for all kinds of focus areas. We try to be as broad as possible to support the largest number of organizations in our area. The data from last year is right there. It's over $15 million worth of grants and scholarships that were given out. Currently, we're managing about 130 plus grantees. So a lot of our grants go out in the form of donor advised funds, but we also manage a competitive process too. And that's kind of what our team, the community investment team, does. And that's that 130 grantees that some of y'all might actually be this year.
I just realized my screen was off earlier, so you just had a ghost person talking to you, so apologies for that. So really kind of big question, what does Central Carolina Community Foundation do? Our overall mission is to make life better in the Midlands by investing for impact through grants and scholarships. It's really what our team especially is doing, and that's Haley and Chantrell and Tremaine, and we have Lee here, who's sort of an honorary member as well of our team. And so how do we do that? Our biggest thing is to try to make connections. Our goal is to really know what's going on in the community and trying to match either nonprofits together who have similar missions or similar populations to be served, who can help really support each other, but also connecting donors and institutions to folks on the ground who are doing this work. We also have agency funds, which we'll mention here a little bit later. That's nonprofit funds. We offer scholarships. We do awards. We do have donor advised funds, which is the vast majority of our grant making. And then again, we do competitive grant making, which is what you all are interested in probably as well. And then we have some special initiatives. So specifically, when you're looking at agency funds, and we're renaming those to nonprofit funds, just so you know, to be a little bit more descriptive. And some of you here in the room with us do have a fund with us, and so hopefully you can vouch for one day for some of the work that we do in partnership with you. But what those are is a fund set up by a nonprofit that is designated specifically for the nonprofit, for the benefit of that nonprofit. So the nonprofit puts money in, you can have donors put money in as well, but the spinoff, the proceeds go specifically to that nonprofit. It provides long-term unrestricted income. It is endowed. Hopefully it's growing for the most part. It's endowed. And that fund, the funds for nonprofits is pooled with our other funds and professionally managed. We get better rates on, which is one reason why a lot of nonprofits put a fund with us. Central Carolina Community Foundation is the owner of all funds, not just agency funds, but everyone's fund. And so what that does, though, is insulates the nonprofit from suits and judgments because that's no longer your property. And we can confidently handle sort of complex things like stocks and gifts, annuities, and those kind of things. And so if you have wanting more information, there is a website there for that. We have an amazing team of advancement folks, as well as those of us here that you've met with our grants team who can help kind of navigate some of that with you. And that's it is a service that we do provide for our nonprofit. We also have affiliate funds, which some of you have certainly gotten grants from these funds as well. We have 4 of them, and they're in partnership with Central Carolina Community Foundation. We have the Greater Chapin Community Foundation, which offers both competitive grant making as well as Midlands Gives Matches. We have Orangeburg Calhoun Community Foundation, the Kershaw County Community Foundation, and the Sumter Community Foundation. And Sumter Community Foundation also does competitive grant making, and Midlands Gives Matches as well. And so we'll talk a little bit more about Greater Chapin here in a little bit, but these are all community funds, and there is a page on our website to find out a little bit more about them. But some of you who are like, if you have to be physically housed in those communities for the most part, you have to have a physical location in those communities, or can certainly definitely say, I am serving that community. I'm really committed to that community. So those are some of the different affiliate funds that we do offer. When you're talking about community investment, which is our team here, what are our priorities? And they've remained pretty consistent over the years. The biggest one is to increase livability and quality of life for folks here in the Midlands. And that is done in a variety of ways. So that's sort of our North Star, if you will. We also want to increase philanthropy, which is, so it's not just, so we want to help you build your capacity to secure donors and philanthropic dollars, but we also want to help leverage others. And so there are times when we certainly say to other funders, what is it you're doing? How can I come alongside you? We want to build up philanthropy and realize that philanthropy is not just for a select few, it's all of us, right? Which is why, for example, our Midlands Gives, why we do Midlands Gives, but why we decrease that threshold to $10 for a gift, right? For anyone, for the most part, can be a philanthropist. We also are really leaning into improving nonprofit capacity. And so we've begun to increase our investment in capacity building, and we're hoping to offer new opportunities. We're hoping to partner with other organizations around the region who are doing capacity building. So that includes we're doing training with Midlands Gives, but also hopefully with some other folks like Together SC or Sisters of Charity to help walk alongside them as well for their capacity building work. And our African American Philanthropy Committee is very committed to increasing the capacity as well of Black-led and Black benefiting nonprofits. And so, and the last thing we're really committed to is working with diverse organizations. And we see that both geographically and demographically. And so we continue to look for opportunities to engage with and network with organizations that are outside Richland County, and organizations that are led by Black, Indigenous, and people of color. We're doing some general operating support grants specific to some of those communities to try to see if just having ongoing unrestricted support can help build some of their capacity as well. And so those are some of the things that we're working on, and we do have some internal goals that we're trying to reach. And so we're trying to get out more and be in community more and get to know some of these organizations, because we also know that trust is probably the most important thing. These organizations need to know about us and trust us so that we can then work in partnership with them for some grant making.
So we have two big new things this year is new staff members, Termise Carter, who's our new program officer that started this week. And then Chantrell Mitchell, who started a couple months ago, and she's our new community investment associate. We introduced everyone kind of at the very beginning of this, but we'll talk a little bit more about them right now. Termise will be taking over the connected communities and some of those grants, so y'all might speak with her soon about that. Chantrell is providing support for our department, so she'll be, as Erin said, kind of the face of us for the first touch for a lot of instances. However, you can also reach out to all of us as well, so we're all here to help. Other new things this year, it actually was new last year for the 2021 grants, is our new online grant portal. We used to have, everything was very kind of scattered, I would say. And this grant portal allows you to create a profile where all of the grant pieces will be together. It'll be your application, it'll be your grant agreement, it'll be your final report, anything like that is all together, and you can look at historical data and all of that as well. So that we are still using that this year, and it listed here is a few more of the other features of it. One thing that's kind of cool about it is that you can import answers from past applications. It's not perfect because some of the questions change, but some of it is, you know, a lot of the kind of generic stuff, you can press a certain button on there and it'll pull in from your application from last year, for example. So that's something to be aware of. If you need help with that, feel free to contact us and we can help you find all of that. So we wanted to kind of get an idea from everybody here. What is your experience with grant making here with CCCF? Are y'all new? Have you never applied for a grant before? Have you not really been here recently? So maybe you haven't seen the grant portal, for example. You have applied recently, but you didn't receive funding, or you currently have a grant from us. So we'd love to hear kind of what your engagement is with our grant making. Okay, just another couple seconds to answer. All right, can you share it? I actually can't see the results until you do. All right, so it looks like a good third of you, almost a third, have not applied for anything recently. So y'all might be brand new to the grant portal, which is good to know. And then 27% have a grant with us, and then a quarter are all new. Okay, wonderful, good. Well, that I think this will be good information for you as we move forward with talking about the grant portal, I believe, is next. So we have an online grant portal that you can actually access from our website. There's a little teal button on almost all of our grant pages that say grant portal, and you just click it there and it'll take you to this page. I believe we're also going to be adding a button to the top of our website that will say grant portal or grant login. As I said, this is where all of our applications are going to be accepted. We don't accept things like paper applications or email things. This is where you'll have a profile where your a grant agreement is also in there, any of your final reports. A lot of communication is done through the grant portal as well. One thing that we learned about as we were moving kind of into year 2 of creating this portal, using this portal, is that, you know, there's staff changes at organizations. Some of you have already applied for grants. Your organizational profile is already in the system. But whenever as a new staff person, if you go in to create a new account, you're also going to be creating a new account for your organization because it makes you start with that. It's not my favorite feature of the system. So one thing that we do ask, instead of creating an all new account for your organization, because then it won't be linked to all of your other grants that you have, all of your applications, things like that. What we recommend is that if you have had staffing changes, contact us because we can set up a new person in the system connected to the organizational profile that's already there. So that's probably the best way to do that. If you don't know if you're in the system or not, you can also contact us to see, but we recommend doing that instead of starting from scratch if you've already applied for grants before. If you haven't, then you can just go ahead and create a new account and get your organization in there, and you can add your personal profile in there as well. So this is kind of what that page looks like. Then once you go to, at the top, you see the little apply button. Once you go to that apply page, once you're in the system, then you'll basically see a list of all of our grants that are open. Sometimes this page is blank whenever we don't have any grants that are open, so don't be worried about that. You can check our calendar online if you don't know when something will be open. But on September 1st, for example, there's going to be a list of things. So some people do call me looking for a particular grant and they just haven't scrolled down long enough. So I do encourage you to scroll. Also note, whenever you are applying, the actual apply button to get into the grant application is at the top right of the box. See where the little red circle is around the blue apply button. Sometimes people read through the little description and then they click the apply button below it, but that's actually for the next grant down, so you're not filling out the correct application. So that does mess some folks up. So just always go to the top right is where that apply button is. Another thing to note, you can also see it at the top red circle there. We have an access code area. Some of our some of our grants are by invitation only. And if that's the case, then we will send you an access code that you will enter there into that box. And then at that point, that grant information box and the application button, apply button, will pop up for you on your screen. So that's kind of how that works.
So here's the big overview of our competitive grant making, and that's a list of the grants that we do have available. In total, it's over $1 million that we'll be granting out this year to nonprofits. And so we're going to go in detail with some of these, but not all of them. So we'll kind of start at the top and go from there. The first one you see is field of interest funds. And those are funds that our donors have set up, and they set them up to say, I'm really interested in this specific area. It could be like animal welfare, arts and culture, or leadership, those kind of things. And they have said, but we don't know, for example, in 50 years, who the ideal organization is going to be for that issue, or we don't know what the pressing issue is going to be at the time. And so they have asked the community foundation to identify the best fit annually for that area of interest, that field of interest. So we do have field of interest funds, and some of you have received sort of grants out of the blue because of those field of interest funds, but we also use those field of interest funds to fund some of our other grant making. So that's just an FYI. You might see some of those kind of things come through every once in a while. We do offer, we provide some of the competitive grant making for some corporations in the area. Sunoco is one of those. Sunoco, however, is not in our footprint. If you know your geography, they are in the Hartsville area, and they, however, do provide grant making throughout the state. But specifically, I should actually say it is pretty limited to their specific geographic region. But competitive grant making does kind of come through us. And so if you go on, you can certainly reach out to us if you're serving specifically that region and have some work that you think that they might be interested in. And then Hooting the Blowfish Foundation, that is the band Hooting the Blowfish. Their foundation is housed at Central Carolina Community Foundation. That is by invitation only. They do competitive grants that are called Area of Need grants. They identify a few areas of need each year. One of those pretty consistently has been arts education in public schools, and then they sort of add other ones on as they go. But those are $10,000 a year for 3-year grants, which I love that they're multi-year grants to allow a little bit of time for organizations to sort of get some work done. Each year, though, they pick different issues, and it's been everything from recovery homes to youth families who have children with disabilities to veteran services. So it's been pretty wide. And so we work with them each fall to identify what their area of need is going to be for the next spring. And then we invite organizations statewide to apply for those grants. And they usually do 3 to 4 new organizations each year. And so if you get a call from Trinice, who will be overseeing that project, then certainly that's kind of what she might be asking about. We also provide disaster relief funds. We have some that are specific to the Midlands. There's Midlands Disaster Relief Fund, but also our statewide 1SC fund. Fingers crossed, we're in the middle of hurricane season. Please let us stay safe for at least one more year. And then we also did COVID funding through our disaster relief funds, which has been a big project of the Community Foundation, multi-million dollars coming out, going statewide. And we've done, I believe, a really great job of late looking at equity in our grant making and our disaster relief work. But right now it's not open. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to open it again this year. The Lynch's River Conservation Fund, we will talk about that one in brief. That has changed a little bit this year, and we'll have a whole nother information session about that. But that is around conservation along the Lynch's River. And that application is going to be opening up in September, and we'll talk through kind of what that looks like. And then you'll see AFLAC is another one of our corporate funds. We're talking about capacity building grants, which again, I think I mentioned that we're leaning into and want to be able to help our nonprofits when it comes to capacity building. And the Knight Foundation, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. And then we will talk about our affiliate funds, connected communities, and Jumpstart Grants is actually part of our capacity building work as well. So we'll get into all of those as we go. One thing I do encourage you to do, though, is visit our website. And you'll hear that from us whenever whenever someone reaches out and says, hey, I want to learn about your grant. The first thing we'll say is please visit our website and get to know that information so you can have some specific questions. So it's not just a general, hey, what grants can I get? Take a look at that. There's also a calendar on there that shows you when grants are opening and closing. So please take some time to visit our website, yourfoundation.org, and go to the Grants and Scholarships tab.
So I want to talk about AFLAC grants because those are opening September 1st. There's actually 2 cycles per year for AFLAC. It's September application, and then also a March application. So if you don't get it one cycle, you can always apply for the next. You can kind of keep applying as much as you want. This is a pretty competitive grant, I would say. It is open statewide, so that's why it can get kind of competitive. It's for up to $10,000 for programs that are in the area of health and well-being and education. So typically AFLAC, this is the AFLAC insurance group, it's their employees are the ones actually selecting who is going to be awarded, but we're the ones that administer the application process, award process, things like that. Their primary interests, their preferences are for pediatric cancer support, and also some other cancer support I've noticed that they've done. And then on the education side, a lot of support for K-12 and also life skills. So they do a lot with whether it's seniors or homeless youth, people like that as well. So that's kind of what their area of focus on. Depending on when your program is, that's when I would recommend to apply. So for example, if it makes sense for you to have a January to December based project, then apply in the fall. And then if you have a July to June project, if that makes more sense for your organization, then apply in the spring. That might help you to decide when to apply. If you're currently receiving an AFLAC grant or a sponsorship from AFLAC, then you're not eligible to apply. But once you are done with that full program year and you've submitted your final report, then you are welcome to apply again. Some other grants that are opening September 1st are Jumpstart grants. This is a really cool program that provides 1 year of new donor management software, CRM software, that's called Jumpstart. It's actually managed by a company called Network for Good. And Network for Good also provides coaching for using the software, actually getting you set up in that system, taking your current data and moving it over, but also fundraising. coaching as well. It's one-on-one, it's twice a month, and it's a really wonderful program that we've had great responses from for our current cohort. We've been doing it for the last few years. This is a matching grant, so it is something where you have a little bit of skin in the game, up to $1,000 of your funds. Then the rest of the grant, which is about a $4,000 grant, covers the two things that I just mentioned. There is an information session about this because it's kind of a particular program where it's not every organization is a good fit for the Jumpstart program. If you're already fine with your donor software, then this probably isn't for you. But if you're looking for a new kind, this might be a good one for you. Or if you're the kind of organization that, let's face it, runs off of Excel for keeping track of your donors. I know I've been a part of that organization before. Then this is a great way to see if this might fit for y'all to take that next level up for engaging with your donors and fundraising. So that application is open September 1st through 30th. Then we also have some capacity building mini grants that will be open in February. So I think last year they were a fall one. This year they're going to be in February. This is for organizational capacity. So not for a particular program, but for actually helping your organization with whether it's strategic planning, board development, fundraising planning, disaster planning, facilities management planning, things like that. We have awards for up to $5,000. Typically people use this to hire a consultant to do kind of an extra project to really get their back of house in order. But there's a number of different ways that you can use this particular mini grant. And so if you have questions, I'm the one that manages both the capacity building and the Jumpstart grants. So I'll be your contact for both of those. And on the topic of capacity building, we are going to be developing kind of a capacity building program here because, as Erin stated, that is one of our focus areas. And so we kind of wanted to know from y'all, just kind of a quick, getting the pulse in the room, basically, what type of support do you guys need? Because we certainly don't want to go down the wrong path whenever it's something that you guys don't really care about. So we have options here. If you could respond, just, your top 3 choices, for example, if you like live trainings, coaching, recorded or self-guided trainings, networking opportunities, consultant support, free or low-cost meeting space, personal professional development, like leadership training, funds to attend other capacity building events, like Together SC events, things like that, or if none of those are a need. I'll give you a second to answer. Okay, we can go ahead and share the poll, please. Okay, so it looks like networking was a big one. I'm taking notes. Personal professional development, and let's see, and then funds to attend other events. Okay, those are the top ones.
Consultant support certainly looks like that's something that's needed as well. That's great.
Mm-hmm. And that's where those capacity building grants would really come in at this point. Okay. Great.
All right, so we're going to talk just a little bit about Greater Chapin Community Foundation. And this is a very active local community foundation that is serving the Greater Chapin area, which includes Valentine, Chapin, Little Rock, Peak, Prosperity, and White Rock. It really is pretty specifically for organizations that are housed in that community or have a good footprint and can very specifically say this is what we're doing to serve this community. They're really trying to uplift and strengthen those organizations that are addressing the needs of the Greater Chapin area. The Greater Chapin Community Foundation is made up of community people from the Chapin area who love that community or from that community and really want to serve that community and lift up that community. And so they do a few things that's pretty active. They have events and things that go on, but they also have an application for competitive grant making. And it's not super hard to apply for this one. We try to make it as simple as possible. The average award in 2021 was a little bit over $1,000, just for perspective as to how that goes. So again, that application will open up September 1 through 30th. And so that's something that if you are housed in that community, or can certainly say we are serving this community and have a track record of serving that community, then they would definitely want to hear from you. So they really do want to get to know organizations in that community and be in partnership with organizations in their community. They also typically offer Midlands Gives matches in the spring. And so again, we don't want to leave money on the table, right? So if you're housed in that community, certainly be on the lookout for those kind of things and help leverage additional funding as well, for it to be able to serve that community. And so it is, again, a broad range of charitable needs. So they aren't very specific as to like it has to be, you know, arts and culture or human services or anything like that. So if you're serving that community, I definitely would recommend that you look at possibly applying in September. Reach out to us if you have any questions, though. I think we might have some representatives from Greater Chevy Community Foundation who are on right now. So if there's any questions in particular you have, this would be a great time to ask some of those. Drop them in the chat or anything like that, because they could be on here to help answer some of that too, if you have any. So we're excited about that project, and they're going to be offering some good grants here this fall. The next one that you'll see there is Lynch's River Conservation Fund, and this is a big project. We've had it now for a little over about 5 years now, and this is the goal of this one is to improve the water quality and ecological integrity of the Lynch's River watershed. And how do they do that? It's through land acquisition conservation project. It's really for that. I put the map on there so everyone can see it. If you're a conservation person, all this makes sense. But it really is the watershed for the Lynch's River. It runs from North Carolina border down to where it hits the PD River, which is basically south of Lake City, kind of towards Johnsonville area. But there is a priority area, which is outlined in blue there. And that, again, kind of goes down a little bit south of the Sandhill State Forest. So we have revised that process. It used to be kind of open and closed application date. It is going to become a rolling application that's open year round starting September 1. We will have an information session about it in August. I'd encourage any of you who are sort of in that space of conservation that you might want to join us for that. It'll be a meeting in partnership with Open Space Institute as well to help answer some of those questions. We're hoping to make it a little bit easier for our partners and hopefully help them also leverage additional funding. We want to get money out the door. We want to spend this money. We want to be able to do some good work with it. So I encourage you to visit us and share, participate in an information session as well. And we'll get that. We'll add those links to the website. We'll send it out with our nonprofit newsletters as well as we go. The next one we have here is the Knight Foundation, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. And this is pretty specific to Richland County. So for those of you who are outside Richland County, apologies. This is really for folks who are sort of here in Columbia. This is started by, again, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, which owns the state newspaper. And when they sold the state newspaper, they set up a fund at Central Carolina Community Foundation. And they really are they're a journalism company, right? So they are really interested in ensuring that we have an engaged community, an informed and engaged community. They want to help us attract and keep talented people. They want to help expand economic opportunity and create that culture of engagement, kind of what I mentioned earlier. They also have a new, really increased focus on smart and responsive cities using technology to engage people and to make our cities more efficient and effective and responsive to their communities. And so that's sort of a new little wrinkle they put into it. They really want us to think about how to partner with and capitalize on our resources that we already have here in Columbia in particular. We do house our state government, right? We have really strong institutions with state government as well as our flagship university, University of South Carolina. They want to know how we can engage those institutions, as well as this incredible river that runs through our city that we have just kind of over the last decade really started thinking about how best to utilize that. They want us to think about then how to capitalize on our rivers and really our public space. We have a really nice green space and a good canopy. It is a little bit bigger of a project, up to $50,000 that they award, and it is open year round. Anyone though who thinks that they might have a project that fits into that, Tremice Carter will be taking that kind of project on, will be the point person for that. But she and I can certainly talk with you if you have some ideas that you want to bounce off of. This is a unique one in that we work with the nonprofit to submit to the Knight Foundation for review. So it's a kind of a good partnership that we have with nonprofits. So if you're here housed in or doing a project in Richland County that you want to talk about, set up a time to meet with Tremice and we can go from there. So the other one I want to kind of mention is this is really our signature project outside of some of our capacity building work, which is Connected Communities, which some of you have heard of before. And our sort of tagline is "Love where you live." Tremise will be overseeing this one as well. And Tremise has been here for 3 days, y'all, so she's probably kind of concerned the number of times I've said her name. But she'll be overseeing this livability grant as well for us. And the big question is, what is Connected Communities? So Connected Communities really are projects that improve the Midlands quality of life and increase resident satisfaction and community attachment. You can go to the next slide, Chantrell. And so how do we do that? Really looked at data, which has been, we always try to rely a little bit on data, right, and research and what that shows. And so we found out, and there were surveys done that really asked the question, not just why do you live in this community, but why do you stay in this community? Why do you love this community? And why is it a good fit for you? And what came out from that data is that residents say if they have easy access to these 6 things, it makes this place more livable. They have a higher satisfaction with this community, which is a safe place, right? It needs to be a safe place for them to live and work. They need to have access to quality healthcare facilities and services, as well as quality job opportunities, right? They need to have affordable housing and also have access to high quality recreation. And access to quality arts and culture events. So it's not just the basic things on how do I live, but how do I thrive, right? And those are the things that we are looking for Connected Communities. So the things to think about, it is only for the 11 counties in the Midlands. So this is a Midlands specific project. And we do want folks to think about novel, new approaches to a vibrant and connected community. So really, this is something that's reviewed by our board, and they do ask themselves, does this sound interesting? Does this sound fun? Something like I want to do, something that I would need, a new approach to this. And they also want something that raises awareness of our community. So something that could help really elevate the Midlands area and make it so it kind of puts itself on the map a little bit. We do want to encourage volunteerism. You can go back to the other one. Encourage volunteering. So that's one thing that we know as well. When people volunteer in their community, they're more likely to stay in their community and to be engaged in their community, to vote in their community, to give in their community. So one of the things we do ask with our Connected Communities project is that they do try to engage volunteers in some way. It's not a requirement, but it is something that we are looking at. We would certainly want that to happen. This needs to be a new project or an expansion of an existing project. So it can't just be a project that you've been doing for a while now and just want to keep doing that. And then it also should be something that promotes philanthropy, because this is a matching grant. So if you look at the next page there, the next slide, it does require a 30% match. So if someone is requesting, for example, $50,000, they would need to raise an additional 15 to go along with it. And I will be honest, in my experience, that's not been too hard. Once you say to someone, I already have, 50,000, I'm just trying to raise the remaining 15. They usually do a pretty good job in raising that match, and we help you along the way. But they would need to raise that match within the first 6 months of the project. And this one, just as an FYI as well, this project is open to not only 501c3 charities, but also public institutions, schools, cities, counties, as well as faith institutions. That application is a little bit more robust. It's 3 rounds. The first round is really a very simplified application that we just ask you to give us top line what the project is that you're wanting to do and about how much you think you're going to ask for. That is open September 1 for the month of September to fill that out. Start thinking now, though, what you want that project to be, because if your project does make it through the first round, October 15th is when the actual larger application opens, and that's when we ask for your objectives, we ask for who your partners are, we ask for kind of your plan on getting this work done. So do start forming some of that now. And then the last round is really a round 3, which is a presentation, and that's something that we've done each year, and it gives our committee a chance to really get to know these projects and the people behind these projects. And so that's a nice, exciting way for folks to even advocate for their work and be able to show that you really know kind of what you're doing and the energy you have behind it. These projects would not start until March 1, though, so it is a longer process. So just keep that in mind. If you are applying in September, the project wouldn't start until March if funded. And so that's just something to kind of keep in mind as well with that. So before we get into the last section there, are there any questions about some of the grants we just went over? And there's not an information session yet for Connected Communities. You're welcome to give us a call if you'd like. Check out our website. Most of the information is on there. We will have an information call for folks who move on to round 2. We will give them additional support for their application, but there's not an information session for Connected Communities prior to round 1. All right. Haley, you want to do the last section there?
Sure. I was just typing in the chat more information about connected communities. So if anybody needs it. So lastly, we'll talk about scholarships, which is another part of my portfolio that I manage. We currently award 47 different scholarships. This year, we just finished our cycle and it totaled $569,000, more than that, to 237 students. So most of these students are from our area, but not all of them are. We actually leave it open for anyone to apply. Last year, which we're still kind of collecting all the data on everybody right now. So we do have last year's numbers. 65% were first generation college students. So we're reaching some folks to actually help them attain that dream of of attending college and getting their degree. The median scholarship amount is $2,000 per year. Over 40% are renewable, so you can get them year after year after year, as long as you keep the criteria in mind. This cycle is from January to March. That's whenever applications are open for students. These would be graduating high school seniors or current college students that are going to be attending college. That's the vast majority of what the scholarships are. So if you have any college students in your life or high schoolers in your life that are going to be going to college soon, tell them about these scholarships. We have so many available. It's one application that you fill out. There's an eligibility quiz that you do at the beginning to see if you are eligible for any of our scholarships. And if you are, then you just fill out one application and it's automatically connected to all the ones that folks are eligible for. So it's a great program, and it's one of our ways that we get funds out into the community from our scholarship donors.
So this is sort of a wrap up, and we'll let Chantrell actually have her voice be heard. She gonna do it?
There she is.
Yeah.
So to get connected with us, you can contact Erin, Haley, Tremice, or myself at any time with any questions that you have, and we'll be glad to answer. As you can see, this is our email and telephone numbers, as well as also you can see that we have our main line and our social media handles as well.
We really encourage you, if you have not yet, to sign up for our nonprofit newsletter. You can sign up for other newsletters as well that we send out, our general news or anything like that. But our nonprofit newsletter goes out every other week, and it really does have good information on it. Unfortunately, we have a lot of folks who will call us or email us and be like, "Hey, I was wondering about X, Y, or Z," and we're like, "Yeah, it just closed. We've been sending information out about it for the last month, but they're not on our nonprofit news. So they weren't aware of it." So please sign up for that. Make sure it doesn't go to your junk. We try to make it helpful. It's not full of other stuff. We try to make it things that can be helpful for you specifically in the next coming week or two. And if you have information that's not necessarily specific to your organization, but you're like, "Hey, I just found out," like, for example, we just sent something out about the broadband initiative for organizations that are in underserved areas, that, "Hey, I found out about this initiative. It's a chance for other nonprofits to get engaged." If you have anything like that you want to share, you can send that over to Lee or myself or Chantrell to get some information, see if it might fit with our nonprofit news. We do encourage you to sign up for that and follow us on our social media handles as well. We do have a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, you can certainly drop it in the chat. And because we have a couple minutes, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you can also ask that. But if not, we want to thank everybody for joining us today. And again, we do encourage you to reach out to us. Our goal, hopefully, once it's safe again, is to get us back in person as much as we can be and in community. And we want to be in your communities as well and come to you and see how things are going. But we will kind of take a break and see if anyone has any questions for us about what we just presented.
I did drop the link for signing up for the nonprofit newsletter in the chat as well.
So we did see one, are you able to connect nonprofits with grant writers? That's a great question. So we do have a few folks that we know, consultants that we know about. One of the places we refer people to is actually to Together SC. They do have what they call business partners, and those folks have sort of been vetted as folks who are interested and are able to work with nonprofits, sort of understand the nonprofit world. And so we oftentimes refer folks to that list for any reason, whether strategic planning or finance management, whatever that is, because those folks have also sort of agreed to act in ethical ways, to not overcharge our nonprofits, and really understand the work that it is that you're doing. Sometimes we find consultants who don't necessarily understand nonprofits, right? I think we've all been there. So we typically refer folks over there, but if you do have some specific questions, we're more than happy to say, hey, these are some of the ones that we know about that have done good work for other partners, and we're happy to help, kind of just direct you in some of that way as well. And someone said, even though applications are not open, the information needed is on the website. Yes, it is. And we're gonna, now that we've had this sort of information session, we'll start putting the applications at least on the grant portal. They just won't be open yet. So you'll start to see those getting populated slowly. And then September 1, you'll be able to go in and actually start filling out those applications. But it is on our website. Our website, thank you to Chantrell, was recently updated with some of the new data. If you see something that's incorrect, just give us a call. But our website, except for Lynch's, and there's one other site, have not yet been updated for those pages, but the rest of them have been.
I just put in the chat a link to our general kind of grants opportunities page that has a link to each of the grants that we've talked about today.
So we'll hang out just for a little bit. The rest of you, certainly, thank you very, very much. We will at 1 o'clock start information about Black Philanthropy Month and Give 828. So if you're a Black-led, Black benefiting nonprofit or really want to support Black philanthropists, then you're welcome to come put it on turn your video off, whatever, and come back at 1 o'clock, or else you can just